I give the floor to representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We wish to thank the Undersecretary General, Madam Rosemary DiCarlo, the head of the delegation of the EU, Olaf Skog, and the facilitator for Resolution 2231, the permanent representative of Ireland, Madam Geraldine Newnason, for their briefings. We note the efforts of Ireland in ensuring effective coordination of the facilitation of the 2231 format, as well as the high level of professionalism of the Irish team. Clear example of this is the fact that the semi-annual report of the facilitator was adopted by consensus. At the same time, it behooves us to draw attention to the following. Unlike the report, today's briefing of the facilitator was not agreed upon pursuant by consensus in the 2231 format, and a number of premises set out therein raises questions for us. Unfortunately, this has somewhat tarnished the overall positive impression of the Irish facilitator's role. We trust that in the future, the facilitator of the 2231 format will restore the practice of consensus-based agreement on their statements before the Security Council. Professional diplomacy, which requires inter alia willingness to account for one another's interests and to demonstrate reasonable flexibility for the purposes of achievement of compromise, in the past facilitated the achievement of consensus of the adoption of the JCPOA. The JCPOA became one of the key achievements in multilateral diplomacy at the modern era. A significant deal, the significance of this deal both for the region and for the world as a whole is difficult to overestimate. The JCPOA is a symbol of the fact that the parties, despite considerable divergences on positions, are capable of reaching agreement. Unfortunately, this precious balance was disrupted in 2018 with the unilateral departure of the United States from the JCPOA and the subsequent steps by Washington. Not only did this undermine the deal, but it also prevented other participants from fully complying therewith. I refer first and foremost to the illegitimate unilateral direct and indirect sanctions as imposed by the United States of America. I wish to emphasize that it is indeed the policy of maximum pressure on Iran, which the U.S. administration continues to embrace, that this is the main cause of all of the current problems plaguing the JCPOA. All of Iran's subsequent steps were a reaction to the destructive measures taken by the United States and not individual departure by Tehran from its obligations. For this reason, it is indeed completely logical that progress in the U.S.'s restoration of full compliance with obligations under the JCPOA would set the stage for reciprocal compliance by Iran with certain obligations under the deal that had been paused. We note with regret that in the Secretary General's report, this causal link is not fully made clear, and incidentally, this is not the first time this is the case. Moreover, once again, the calls for the U.S. to lift restrictions or take a decision on waivers is placed on equal footing. In the context of reviving the deal, we are talking not about waivers, but about the full lifting on a consistent, complete, permanent, and verifiable basis of the illegitimate discriminatory measures imposed by the United States against Iran in breach of Resolution 2231. Moreover, at the same time, we welcome the fact that the report of the Secretary General, as presented today, reflects the premise that the JCPOA is the most effective tool for shoring up the non-proliferation regime and regional security. We fully concur that the path to lasting peace and security lies with diplomacy. The report sets out the following. The U.S. and current parties to the JCPOA, including Iran, during negotiations in Vienna, demonstrated a collective focus on ironing out their political and technical differences. We trust that this will continue to be the case moving forward. We support Antonio Guterres' call for the stakeholders to demonstrate flexibility for the sake of compromise. At the same time, we would draw attention to the fact that the report fails to reflect the important role of the Joint Commission of the JCPOA, whose decisions are designed to ensure not just implementation of the agreed-upon measures, but also oversight vis-à-vis their implementation. There is a need for clarification vis-à-vis the premise of the Secretary General that lack of progress in relaunching the JCPOA would undermine confidence in its ability to ensure the exclusively peaceful nature of the Iranian nuclear program. I wish to recall the fact that of key importance in this context is Iran's compliance with the obligations under the NPT and the IAEA Comprehensive Safeguards Agreement. The JCPOA has ensured notable transparency vis-à-vis Iran's nuclear activity. Mr. President, the Russian Federation, like a number of other countries, voted against what was initiated by a group of Western states in early June, the Board of Governors resolution. We believe that this initiative is highly inopportune, blatantly politicized, and at variance with efforts on the negotiations track to restore the JCPOA. The issues addressed are retrospective in nature. They do not have a proliferation risk relation. Well, let us recall that in 2015, Iran was the state that was most frequently verified from among IAEA parties. We continue to be very much troubled by the illegitimate practice of the UN Secretary to carry out certain investigations under Resolution 2231. We categorically object to this kind of activity by the Secretariat. Its mandate in the context of Resolution 2231 is exclusively administrative and technical in nature, and this is set out in the Security Council President's note, labeled S 2016-44, dating 16 January 2016. The authority to send any requests to member states to provide information or to react to such requests, not to mention any inspections on the ground, is not vested in the Secretariat. The 2231 cell is not a sanctions committee. It does not have the specialized expertise. We believe that the Secretary General's report should not have any conclusions based on conjecture of Secretariat staff and information from unidentified or uncorroborated sources. We repeatedly pointed to the fact that Iran has been scrupulously complying with the missiles-related provisions of Resolution 2231. The Council has not received any compelling evidence of the contrary. We regret the fact that a number of states continue to advance unjustified allegations vis-à-vis Iran's nuclear program, using the same logic at the same time, which we repeatedly repudiated. Mr. President, to conclude, I wish to stress the fact that there is still no alternative to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Our duty is to safeguard this deal and to revive it. The Russian Federation wholeheartedly supports negotiations to resume implementation of the JCPOA through the initially agreed upon frameworks. From the very beginning, we said that the path back to the JCPOA would not be easy. It is always much easier to destroy something than it is to rebuild it. We are heartened by the fact that work to rebuild the package is already at a mature stage. We see no insurmountable issues towards reviving the JCPOA, but now it is exceedingly important that we are at an exceedingly important, delicate, crucial stage. Attempts to step up pressure on Iran and through unwarranted fueling of tensions around the JCPOA could fully invalidate prospects for reviving the deal. We would urge the parties to demonstrate strategic restraint, to adopt a pragmatic posture, and to focus on compromise. We are confident that in this case, solutions amenable to all will be arrived at. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement.